Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fortress of Comic News, episode 400. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, alongside my co-host, Mike. Mike, how's it feel to be at episode 400?
Feels, I don't know. It feels 100 from 500. That's what it feels.
Yeah, you can't even enjoy it. You got to get the next milestone.
We're almost halfway to 1,000, folks. So let's keep on chugging along. It's awesome.
I've been like thinking about this all week, so I'm so happy to be here with you, man.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure hosting this show with you, and kudos and a big standing ovation for Chris for the amount of work and effort that he puts in this podcast. I'd say about 95% of the work is done by Chris. Whether it's the notes, whether it's scheduling, whether it's the website upkeep, this dude is the fortress behind all of it. So
appreciate
special thanks and appreciation for you. But also, okay, we do have an interview today for episode 400, Mr. Jim Zub. So while we want to love and talk about Chris, we got to talk about Jim Zub.
Dude,
yeah.
Scheduling for this episode was hard because it's the middle of December.
Yeah,
but also I always want to get a big one for the big 100 episodes, the 300, the 200, so on. And there was a few we were mulling around, scheduling didn't work out, but then I reached out to Jim and I was like, fuck yeah, I want to talk about Conan the Barbarian on episode 400. So and it was a blast. So
yeah, and to go back and talk about Samurai Jack books, which was like something when I was getting back into comics, like, oh man, I love, like that I read early on. And I would want to say, you're going to listen to this interview. I have not, and I mean, today's, we record on the weekends, but I am a fan of Conan the Barbarian books now. And I told Jim that, and I wanted to catch up on as much of it as I could this morning before we talked to him, and I am so glad I did, because that book is, and I know nothing about Conan besides the movie, like.
I was going to say, so I was the same way until Marvel got the IP.
Okay.
And then Jason Aaron got me into it, and then Jim took over.
Yep.
But if nothing else, I got you into Conan.
Yeah.
Scheduling this interview, I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, the amount of times everybody that Chris was like, Mike, you should be reading Conan. I'm like, it's Conan. I don't know. Like, and then he just had to get the flagship guy who's coordinating all the Conan stuff right now on the show. And now I'm reading Conan. All right, I get it. Yeah.
It's one of those things that when I jumped into it, I always try to challenge my preconceptions throughout time. Like we've talked about before, I don't like not safe for work books. So I bought a not safe for work book and tried it and remembered, this is why. I always feel the same about fantasy. Like I'm not a huge fantasy guy. I enjoy the Lord of the Rings movies just fine.
Yep.
And I love D&D, but that's more game mechanics than setting. And I did that again. I tested it and I tried Conan. And I was like, oh, I like dark fantasy.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Crush your enemies.
Yeah. and Conan just fits that. That is like the definition of dark fantasy right there. Is Conan Barbarian. Just a dude going out and also it's a male fantasy at the end of the day too. Like it's a dude going out fighting people, killing whatever he can, and getting the woman at the end of the day.
Yep.
It has a lot of similarities to like 007 stuff like that.
Yep.
So I could talk about Conan all day, but we did enough of that in this episode. So
we will. We'll get to it a little bit later. We're gonna jump into the news, I think.
Yeah, there's so much.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on the show. I was traveling overseas and all this stuff, but Star Wars Skeleton Crew came out.
Let me cut you off there real quick. So episode 399, you were not here for it. So I brought in the lovely and talented Travis Gibb.
Oh, of course.
And I know you didn't listen to it, Mike, because
I will. I'm sure I will at some point.
But it's funny. We did a look back on this year in comics, going by characters and everything. And me and Travis are both big Marvel guys, and you'll be happy to hear, Mike, that we both came to the conclusion that DC kicked the shit out of Marvel creatively this year.
Nice. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
I've been saying that this year about what DC. I mean, we've kind of collectively said that DC's been with the announcements, they're like, okay, this is what I mean. Yeah, there was some stuff with like the JSA and Legion of superhero shit that kind of blew up, but yeah, but Marvel's done some stuff with like the Alien crossover. I feel like was a big win for them.
Yeah, does not say there wasn't good Marvel books.
Sure.
I'm just saying as an overall look, our characters we loved and what we were reading, we're like, man, the DC books. And I've been noticing it and doing my top 5 videos too. The DC books are the ones I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to announce too, Mike, that next week you get to hear me talk about Challenge of the Unknown because that comes out Wednesday.
I'll probably be reading it too, but we'll just I need to understand as titular I don't know. It is to the Watchtower, right? The jail Watchtower. That's they're gonna get me to read it because it's like, it's part of the Justice League Unlimited. You won't get me to read Commandy though. I'll buy an issue to rip it up. I swear. That character, man. When they focused on him in the Crisis on Infinite Earths movies, I was like, why?
Dude,
why?
I know we don't exchange Christmas presents because I'm a very much a proponent of I have enough people to buy presents for, and Mike knows that I love them.
Yeah,
but I almost sent you a present because I found a McFarlane Commandy action figure.
Oh man, I probably would have sent a video of me throwing it in my fireplace out back. Oh God, why? How did that get made? How did this get made?
The people, anyways, they demand more.
There was like 2 Commandy. I could just loathe Commandy the rest of this episode, but let's move on.
There's a lot of TV to talk about.
Yeah, so I haven't watched any Skeleton Crew. It did come out. There's 3 episodes out. What do you think?
So I've actually only watched 2 episodes, but
okay,
I'll say it's okay.
Okay.
It's gonna come down to your preference because it's a well done show. The first 2 episodes are well done. I like the big cliffhanger at the end of episode 2, but it is that Goonies style show where the kids are on an adventure,
right?
And they meet this adult who ends up being Jude Law, the Jedi.
Yeah, Jude Law. Yeah,
and that's the show. Like if you're not into that, if like kids going on an adventure aren't for you, which they're typically not for me. I know we've talked about exceptions to that, like Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are even younger than that. Like we're talking probably middle school. But there are some interesting things. Like the planet they're on in the first episode is secluded from the rest of the galaxy.
Okay.
And you get to see like what a suburban neighborhood looks like in Star Wars, which was kind of fun in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And how that operates, and then it mixes in with like pirates and smugglers and all these kinds of things where these kids discover something that takes them on this fantastic adventure in space. It's okay, but I think we're going to talk about more shows later. There's like 4 shows that have come out in the past couple weeks, and it's definitely at the bottom of those 4.
Yeah.
So if you're like me and there's a lot of cool stuff coming out, it's probably a watch later at best, but I'll be keeping up with it. It's just in the hierarchy, it's definitely going to fall down to the bottom because it's just not my style.
I just can't. Yeah, I haven't gotten into it yet.
Yeah.
Creature Commandos is out. I've watched all 3 episodes. Have you watched?
Hell yeah, you have.
Now I'll say, Chris, on my bingo card, having sex with Frankenstein's bride was not on my list. That was a choice. But it did also create some weird love triangle between Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, and Frankenstein. I love the show, though. Don't get me wrong. I love the show.
I love the setup of the show. Yeah. Like, the first episode, obviously, is just, like, getting everyone together, explaining what the show is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it seems like each episode is character-specific. So you're talking about episode 2.
Episode 2, right. Yep.
Which I would love to get into because I was talking to a friend, and while I'm not the foremost expert on Frankenstein at DC, by any stretch, he is somebody that loves that character, and we both agreed, like, I've never seen this take on Frankenstein before.
Right, yeah.
Frankenstein's monster, I should say.
Right.
And I found it very interesting. So, yeah, if you want to go on about the sex scene with Dr.
No,
Frankenstein,
it was just
shocking.
No, it was just shocking to be like him walking in on them and being like, "Oh my god,"
Yeah. So the whole idea of like Frankenstein's monster being alone and him being like, "I need a bride,"
right?
And then Dr. Frankenstein does that,
which
and
is, like,
falls
really
in love with the bride that he created for, which is really
messed
weird.
Up. Yeah,
there's some kinks in there that I'm not ashamed to say I will be shaming.
Yeah,
but
don't yuck someone's yum, Chris. Come on.
That's one I will yuck.
Yeah, I think it is like decomposing flesh. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
But then the idea of there's a little necrophilia in there.
Yeah,
but then the idea of Frankenstein's monster through time now trying to chase this bride,
chase her down, was pretty cool. Yeah,
and having a singular motivation of like I need to find her was interesting.
That was interesting.
And that's David Harbour too.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was until
the voice cast. Let's talk about voice cast. Amazing voice cast. I mean, they're they're going to be the live action versions if we do see them. And, the first episode with the setup and kind of picking up after Suicide Squad. Amanda Waller. Oh my god, can't think of the actress right now, but amazing. I mean, the voice cast is amazing. The third episode focusing on GI Robot might have been my favorite episode.
Yeah.
And I, because you're always like, oh, do we kill Nazis now? Is now the time to kill Nazis? And then to see him like going through the ages of like, oh, he was in the war. Oh, he was a pile of like memorabilia that he got picked up, and that he's with these neo-Nazis that he ends up murdering. That storyline was incredible.
And it was funny. I love that storyline for multiple reasons. It's a very simple story, but at the same time, as the show was starting, I'm just like, how do you explain this robot being in prison?
Right. Yeah. How does that?
And they did it really well.
Did it. Yeah.
And they made this huge emotional moment of it too, like at the end of the episode where I don't know if we want to spoil it or not, but like something happens and it's like it's super emotional that happened, and the relationship he has with one of the other creatures.
Yeah, and Cersei being the focus of the villain, which I believe we've heard she's going to show up in the Superman movie. I think that's she might be the main villain. We'll see, but this is our first like live action. I mean not. I mean the actress who's voicing her will be in the movies, but we kind of hear that what she's doing, trying to kill this princess, is there's more grand scheme here going on, something behind the scenes. But the whole idea behind the Creature Commandos, right, is like, oh, we can't send humans into other territories, but these aren't humans; these are creatures. So a little, that's kind of messed up already.
Yeah, I'm sure they explained this somewhere, but I either forgot or just never read about it. I kind of always thought this was a prequel to things. This actually is like a sequel to the Suicide Squad movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Which was very interesting to figure out as well in the first episode.
I'm really liking it. I like that the characters are getting their own little spotlight each episode.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, the animation's great. It kind of almost, it has like the feel of like Invincible, right? Like that adult cartoon, done really well. So I highly recommend it. And I mean, James Gunn just gets it. He knows how to tell good stories. He knows how to make you care about a robot that was programmed to kill Nazis. And then he slides in that really funny scene with Weasel, like, attacking Cersei.
And as a whole, being the introduction to the DCU that we're going to get moving forward is kind of brilliant. Like, it separates itself a lot from the MCU, and it is very James Gunn.
Yeah, it is.
Everything there, like, if this is the quality we're going to get moving forward, then if this sticks to landing, you now have a similar buffer to what Marvel gets from me in terms of the movies and shows moving forward. Like, I will be in a great idea. On everything.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to it every week. That's good.
Yeah.
So it's in the game doc series. Is this the thing that's on Amazon right now? There's a video game anthology on Amazon show.
No, but I forgot to put that in the notes, and I want to talk about that next.
Okay, so
It's in the game is actually a doc series about the Madden video game series.
Oh, interesting.
Which I'm sure some people roll their eyes at, but if you're a video game fan, I recommend watching at least the first couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It spends about 80 to 85% of the doc talking about the history of the video game, how it came about, and the different iterations, the different timelines, everything. And then probably like 10 to 15% about them creating this year's game.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like video game history in there. There's fun stories in there that about how, we think of EA as this giant corporation because it is. But when it started off, it was just a dude trying to figure out this thing. And his thing was Madden. Like he wanted to create the ultimate football game.
Right.
And how he does it and how he basically tells, remembering that he's a small company at the time, tells big companies, Nintendo and Sega, to basically go fuck yourself. I'll do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And creates this empire out of it. It's an amazing story.
That's cool.
There's a lot of great video game stuff in there. I think it's a lot of fun. And it's one of the most enthralling docuseries I've watched in a while. And surprising because I don't really play Madden anymore. I used to when I was younger a lot. Here and there, if somebody has it and they want to play, I'll play along because I grew up playing Madden and learning football through Madden. So I think it's a really great series and people should definitely check it out. If you're a football fan, you're going to get more mileage out of it. But I think even just pure video game fans, if you want to watch the first 2 episodes and get like a little history of just some things behind the scenes that is just interesting. So really liked it. Cool. And then the show you're thinking of is called Secret Lair or Secret Level.
Secret Levels, which I guess they're actual video game properties, right?
Yeah, so it's Tim Miller's Blur Studios, which you may know that name because Blur Studios has done a lot of cinematics for video games.
Okay.
I believe the most famous one was they did the cinematics for Halo back in the day.
Yep. Okay.
And Tim Miller we know from Deadpool.
Yep.
It takes a video game property or video game adjacent property. Mm-hmm. So they flubbed the lines a little bit, but it all makes sense at the end. And they tell these short 15 to 20 minute stories inside that world. So like episode 1 is Dungeons and Dragons.
Nice.
I haven't watched all of them, but because there's a Mega Man one, but it's later on.
And I saw there's like a Warhammer one.
There's a Warhammer one that's really good. Mm-hmm. There's a few of series that there's one I've never heard of.
Okay.
And there's a bunch I've never played, but you still like they're so well done, you get sucked into the story they're telling.
That's cool.
The last one I watched was Pac-Man.
Oh, nice.
And I don't know if you saw the announcement recently for that video game Shadow Labyrinth.
Mm-mm. Which
is a Metroidvania style game set in the Pac-Man universe.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a very interesting melding they turn Pac-Man into a horror
that's interesting.
Character. Yeah. And the Pac-Man episode basically sets up that game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's very intriguing how they did it. I think it's really well done. Like I said, they're quick episodes. It's all CGI. Some of them are done in different styles. Some more realistic, like the D&D one.
Yep.
The Sifu one has more of a cartoony animated style, like computer-generated animated style. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's well worth your time if you're a video game fan. Even if you're not, like I said, if you're a Warhammer fan, the Warhammer episode's really great. If you're a D&D fan, the D&D episode's really great.
That's cool.
So you can kind of pick and choose there as you'd like as well.
Okay, let's move into the movie stuff. So it's been reported that Sony will be pausing their efforts to make a separate Marvel Spider-Man universe in films, thank God, after the lack of success from previous titles, minus the Venom trilogy, which was fairly successful. They're now moving all their efforts into other IP and helping Marvel Studios with Spider-Man 4. Yeah, because Kraven the Hunter came out, if anybody forgot about that. And wow, hot garbage is what I've seen.
I made the distinct conclusion that I'm going to wait for it to come out somewhere else. I was going to go see it this weekend and just it's been so busy, and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle came out, so I chose to do that instead.
Yeah, that's a better option, I think.
Yeah, Sony, you can't make good movies. At least you can't make good superhero
without
movies.
Spider-Man. Yeah, it sucks when you don't have your main character available.
Yeah, your PlayStation Studios movies have been pretty good so far. The ones I've seen, at least. I just think that this, for some reason, is outside of your wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, just let the MCU have it. Get free money from Marvel Studios and work on your other things.
Yeah, you got so much other stuff.
Yeah, they're doing Uncharted 2. They've got all these PlayStation IPs they're trying to push.
Mm-hmm.
Fund some smaller movies too. Like, go outside the box. You don't need to depend on this because obviously it's not working.
This was kind of surprising that Marvel Studios announced Chris Evans joined the cast of Avengers Doomsday, not announced who he would play. So I guess we're just getting the whole band back, Chris. We're just gonna.
So my first feeling, like,
it's just another Avengers movie with everybody.
Well, here's the thing, because that was my initial like, fuck, they're just gonna bring everyone back.
Yeah, we're just doing it again, run it again.
But here's my story idea here, because we already got Robert Downey Jr. playing Doom.
Yeah.
What if they bring back the classic cast and make them integral villains for Doomsday?
That would be cool.
That lay the foundation to set up the next Avengers. So Chris Evans plays like Grandmaster or something, and we get all these quote unquote dead characters to be the new villain for the new Avengers to fight.
No, I think that's a cool idea.
It's a cool circling idea. So I feel like that's what they're going to do. At the same time, I could also see them just saying, Chris, come back, put the old man makeup on, and give a speech to fucking the new Captain America.
Come in for 10 minutes. And announcing it, though, makes me think that he'll be in the movie a little more than that. I don't know.
Announcing it makes me feel like... I feel like if he was coming back with the old man makeup, they would say Chris Evans is back as Steve Rogers.
Is back as the old Steve, yeah.
Doing this makes me feel like we're going to get him to be like a Grandmaster level character, like somebody on the grand scale that's going to help Doom along the way.
Or he's coming back as Human Torch.
He blew up. It's
that's
done.
True. He's dead. Yeah, that can the real casting.
What's funny about this is there's a bunch of casting news for this movie, and I'm reading through it, and I'm like, did anyone think they weren't cast? Like when they said that Benedict Cumberbatch is coming back as Doctor Strange, I'm like,
who thought he wasn't? Right? Yeah, he's been in the. If you told me he's not coming back, then that's the news.
Yeah,
right.
So this is interesting. It all depends on what they do with Chris Evans.
This is actually kind of fucking crazy, and I love Mike Flanagan so much. I'm a huge horror person. If you're a fan of the show, if you're just watching or listening because you love Jim Zub and you're here, I'm a huge horror fan. And I don't blame you for just listening to this episode, but or skipping the interview in a little bit. But I will say that I'm a huge Clayface fan. So this is like hitting all the cylinders for me. Variety is reporting that DC Studios has greenlit a Clayface movie, and the script is being written by Mike Flanagan. And so we know Mike Flanagan wrote the script for Dr. Sleep, and Haunting of Hill House, all those other adaptations of those books.
Yeah, he's a Blumhouse guy, right?
Yeah. So he's done a lot of the horror on Netflix right now. He did a short in the VHS series, VHS Beyond. He did this crazy sci-fi short. The dude knows horror in all realms of it. The filming's being planned for 2025. This is insane. But it sounds so good. Dude, a horror Clayface movie, like. If you're telling me it's along the lines, they did that Invisible Man movie a few years back, and now they're coming out with the next one. If they do it along the lines of that, like this, the horror of the mystery of like, is the person you're talking to the person, like create almost like that like people are going crazy kind of thing. You could do some really crazy like psychological horror here.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome.
I was reading a lot about it, and apparently this was pitched like years ago to the prior DC Warner execs.
And they turned it down.
They turned it down.
Oh my god! James Gunn heard it, and he's like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I want that.
Give me that.
I'm gonna go see it because I'm also a huge Clayface fan.
Dude,
like,
first off, we're gonna get a Clayface movie. What the fuck?
It may not be the Clayface I want, but I will just be happy that there's something Clayface out there.
Yeah,
man.
we can't. The fact that we could, in a world where we could even be like, this isn't the Clayface movie I wanted. How privileged are we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why
crazy.
Would I love to see the starving artist actor who couldn't make it and turned into this villain, and then Batman has to like talk him off the ledge.
Batman has punched him.
Believe me, if Batman Part 2 was that, or or whatever the new Batman for James Gunn's universe was that, I'd be so thrilled. But it's Clayface. Like, I never thought I'd get Clayface in live action to begin with, so I'm going to take it. And I think he does fit the script of a horror icon. Like, so it makes sense. And this gets him into the world. So that means we could be doing that stuff later on, too.
Oh, man.
It's also very interesting that Alan Tudyk is the voice of Clayface moving forward, according to DC Films.
Yes.
Unless this is outside of the DCU.
Yeah, I would love Alan Tudyk to play him.
Yeah,
I think he could do it. But
yeah.
But also, it's Clayface, so he won't be. He's hardly ever going to look like the actor. So that's the weird thing about Clayface.
Yeah, but
right. We'll see.
Yeah, because Clayface can change his voice too. So.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
but I'm sure they're going to do a lot to keep him in that that classic Clayface mold.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm excited for this.
Yep.
Like I said, off of how good Creature Commandos is, whatever they announce, I'm now excited. It's not like back in the day where I'm like, oh, Blue Beetle, okay, it's probably not that good.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I still haven't seen it, but
it's good. It's good.
I
liked it.
It's not like those days. Now there's an excitement back around. So yeah,
and this is like the best pairing, Mike Flanagan, and I think the only better thing I could see Mike Flanagan doing would be Swamp Thing.
Yeah, and
but this is just as good, I think. So.
This is one of the things I love too that James is doing with the DCU is we can tell different types of stories. Like DC, I mean, Marvel has them too, but DC has a lot of characters that fit more in the dark and the grayscale.
Yep.
And this is a perfect example of like, let's do a horror movie set inside our universe, assuming this is inside the universe. But I'm excited about the idea of it.
Okay, I want to talk about get a couple more things before the interview, but I flew back from Europe this week and very surprised and happy to see that the Super/Man documentary about Christopher Reeves was on the plane. And I will have to say,
it's on Max too, and I've been wanting to watch it.
Yep. Yeah. And so I had to download it on my phone, and then like I saw it was on the big screen on the seat in front of me and on the plane. I was like, thank God. But also, it was kind of an empty flight flying back from Europe in the middle of the week, so like there was nobody in the row next to me, in front of me, or behind me. So thank God. I think I texted you, Chris. I might have cried like 6 times watching this film because of how hard. So I'll tell you right now. Opening credits with the John Williams score, immediately start crying. Like it doesn't take much. I mean, I'm just a sap like that. But this documentary really so it talks a little bit about him coming in and getting the Superman role, but it really focuses on his kids and his family and his wife and how the kids were handling it at the time, how they progressed, and what the kind of legacy that Christopher Reeves left for disabled individuals, people with disabilities, and how he had to, he was doing things for them, but also wanted to make sure that he got checked by the community, saying like, disabilities aren't something that you need to cure and all this. So he did actually further his outreach to people, creating groups for kids to, camps for disabled kids and things, just so they could, feel quote unquote normal, like part of society. And he worked on a lot of legislation. They have some politicians talk, like John Kerry's in it, talking about like they were, good pals, because it shows some clips of him like meeting the president and things like that at the time, and the struggles. Like, it's very sad, emotional, depressing at times. It is a fantastic documentary, and and I was really surprised to learn how close he was with Robin Williams, and like Robin Williams and his wife were like the godparents of one of Christopher Reeve's kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like they said that after Christopher Reeves passed, like that's when Robin started to like spiral out of control again, which is like really sad to hear. So, absolutely fantastic documentary. I highly recommend it, even if you're not a Superman fan. It's just to see like the struggles people go through and like what he did even as a disabled individual, and your life isn't over after that, and that's the main like focus is like, this isn't who your disability is, not who you are. You can still have value and see value in yourself in life, and it's an amazing message, an amazing documentary, so highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm excited to sit down and actually watch
Bring the tissues.
I'm sure.
It's funny because I texted another buddy and he's like, yeah, I saw that was on the plane, and I said I better wait to watch this. Because I was like sitting there like, and I'm like looking at it, he's like, nobody's sitting in my row, and I'm like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? He's watching Superman, he's crying. Like, it's like, what the fuck? What a weirdo.
Dude, I mean, there's new listeners out there, but I still think the funniest story from my perspective of that happening was at Avengers Endgame, and when they show Cap and Peggy as Cap goes back in time and has a relationship, and I have these two teenage girls sitting next to me, and I'm bawling and just like, oh my god, and they're just looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And I'm just thinking like, it's so beautiful, he got to go back.
There was time. And and I think it was just a few episodes ago I was reading Justice League Unlimited, and they gave Booster Gold a spot in the Justice League, and I bawled my eyes out. So it doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much when you're talking about DC Comics and getting emotional. So, okay, and the last piece of news we have here is actually new. It's some podcast news. It's not something we really talk about.
Some competition,
strong competition. I'd say maybe, I don't know. Very small studio, DC Comics, DC Studios, and Max. All three were up against here. Chris launched a new podcast series called DC Studios Showcase, the official podcast. So I guess they haven't heard of us, but well, okay. The unscripted podcast is said to be a one-stop shop for all things DC Studios with news, interviews, comic creators, filmmakers, and actors. It'll be bi-weekly and is available now. We also have 399 episodes before this one. If you're looking for more content, interviews, at least 399, because Chris does
more than that.
Chris does a lot of extra interviews, folks. So if you're just here for the first time, check out our other interviews. Big names, small names, whoever you want to hear about. We're not biased here, but we are the better podcast. And with that, I did
subscribe to check it out.
Okay.
And I will say it's apparently the same people that have been doing the companion podcast for Max.
Oh yeah.
Because the feed has all the Penguin podcast episodes, and if you remember when they did the Peacemaker companion podcast, all those are on the feed as well. So it's apparently a group that's been together for a minute. I'll get back to everybody after I listen to it. I have a feeling it's going to be cut very quickly, just based on. I personally like my podcast to be like hour, 2 hours, or 5 hours. This one's like 30 minutes, and I'm like, how much can you really get into in 30 minutes, especially in an interview?
Yeah,
but it's one episode,
our interview
so
was just 45 minutes alone. So
yeah.
Good luck. Especially when you have these passionate creators that want to talk about themselves. I mean, we don't need to. We don't. I mean, we're unscripted. We don't softball questions. We just let them talk about what they want to talk about. And I think that's the only question we really give them up front. What do you not want to talk about? So all right, everybody, we're going to do some comic book news now. Got some announcements here from Marvel. Marvel announced a new limited series starring the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing titled The Thing, from writer Tony Fleeks and artist Leonard Kirk. I think it's interesting they're giving The Thing his own book. But yeah, the saga sees Ben Grimm step away from the Fantastic Four to take down a criminal conspiracy with mysterious ties to his childhood on Yancey Street, fighting his way to the top as a one-man clobbering machine. All right. But when the big bad puts out a hefty hit on him, he'll have to battle who's classic Marvel villains from Bullseye to the unstoppable Juggernaut. That's pretty cool. Arriving just ahead of Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four First Steps this July, and perfect for newcomers and true believers alike, The Thing delivers a timeless, action-packed adventure for one comic book's most beloved icons. I'm gonna read it. We got Fleeks on the main Marvel FF book, so
no, Ryan North is on.
Ryan North, yeah, sorry, not Fleeks. I mean, I'm a huge Thing fan. If you're gonna do a solo book, it makes sense to do it on him. He does a lot of self-narration and dialogue anyways, so it probably makes sense he's on his own, running around trying to unravel
Tony Fleeks. He's on a lot of My Little Pony.
Perfect.
He did that book Local Man and Stray Dogs.
Stray Dogs, that's it.
Yeah. He's done some Rick and Morty too, so he's been around.
Yeah.
I knew the name. I felt like I knew him. I wanted to say he did something else, but I can't. I must be mixing him up with somebody.
But if you're not like a Fantastic Four fan, I don't see you picking this book up.
I mean, there are Thing fans. Like, there's people that don't care about Fantastic Four that are big The Thing fans. So he's always been the standout character of that group.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be... I mean, Marvel 2-in-1 was centered around The Thing for a long time. Like, it makes sense for him to be a character, get his own book.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's not in the news, but they announced that like the Fantastic Four book is turning into the Fantastic 3 because something's going to happen in One World Under Doom. So there's just a lot of Fantastic Four stuff going around. It's like you said in the write-up, like there's a movie coming out.
Yeah, if Tom Brevoort could be on the show like he was a year or two ago, he would tell us what's up. Yeah. But
it makes sense. I've never been a real big Fantastic Four guy. I like The Thing when he shows up, but I'm not going to read a solo book.
Yeah. Marvel announced that starting with issue 11 of Spider-Gwen, the Spider-Ghost writer Stephanie Phillips and artist Paolo Villanelli will be taking over the series. I know Chris will be reading it now. Kicking off in Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider number 11, the thrilling saga sees Gwen take off on a grand quest into the Marvel cosmos. There she'll come across unimaginable power, and the only thing stopping her from using it to fix all her problems is Loki. During the storyline, Gwen will debut a new spacesuit designed by Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider's superstar cover artist, Mark Brooks. Yeah, Spider-Gwen's a thing still, everybody, if you're a fan. Yeah.
There's fans out there. Like, don't get me wrong.
Sure. No, yeah, for sure.
I never got the appeal personally, but I guess the only interesting thing here for me to jump at is why not just a new number 1?
Yeah, right.
Like it's really rare these days that
to not see them do that.
Yeah, creative team takes over and they're just like, oh yeah, you're in issue 11.
Yeah,
I love that. Like that's classic comics to me. But yeah, it's a decision.
Yeah,
and I'd be very interested to see why. Especially Stephanie has a following. Like, people are going to go to that book. Like you were joking about. Like,
no, yeah.
People are going to go to that book for her. So,
no, that's rightfully so. She's a great writer.
And then you're bringing in Loki of all like.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on here.
Yeah. Loki fans are going to come in droves. Marvel announced a new series spinning out of One World Under Doom event titled Doctor Strange of Asgard, from writer Derek Landry and artist Carlos Magno. The new ongoing series and artists from writer Derek Landry to Captain America, Iron Man, and artists from Captain America, Carlos Magno, takes Strange in a fantastical, ambitious new direction as he seeks to regain his glory and strength by becoming the first ever Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard. But Asgardian magic is more ancient and guarded than Midgard's, and Strange's bold attempts to master it will ignite a deadly power struggle between the sorcerers of the Golden Realm, including Loki. Join Strange as he races to solve a mystery that could disrupt the balance of magic forever, avoiding Thor's thunderous wrath and uncovering long-hidden secrets of Asgardian myth along the way. That is an interesting concept, I guess.
It's a really cool concept that intrigues me a lot. I'm I like to be honest with, if I didn't have such a giant pull list, this would probably be one of those books that would get me to try, just based on that's a cool premise.
Yep.
But I probably wound up skipping it. But I like the idea. Like, I never thought about much. I'm not into the magic side of Marvel that much. So it probably has been done before, but I've never thought about the fact that the different realms would have different sources supremes. I just figured there was a source supreme for the universe, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that's an interesting, and I'm sure this is going to tie into whatever ends up concluding the whole Doom saga when it's all said and done. But no, cool idea. Derek Landry's a good writer, so I'm sure he's got something cooked up for this.
Marvel announced another new series spinning out of One World Under Doom event called Tiger Division from writer Yoon Ha Lee, artist Minkyo Jung. In their explosive debut series, Tiger Division boldly opposed Doom, earning his respect and animosity in one fell swoop. Never one to forget, now that he's in control of the promising heroes, Doom will transform them into fiercest defenders. In addition to original members of Taeguki, White Fox, Luna Snow, Lady Bright, Mr. Enigma, Gun R2, and the General, the series will see Tiger's Division's mission expand as it recruits other fan favorite heroes, including Wave, Arrow, and more. I have no clue who any of these people are. But yeah.
I thought you read the original Tiger Division.
No idea.
Nope. Oh, that's a Mike-ass book if I ever saw one.
Oh, right.
It's all Asian kung fu characters.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Or like Asian mythology characters stuff.
That's awesome. I'm going to read it.
So I know there was another series they did a while back that introduced a lot of these characters.
Okay.
But
I'll put it on my list of stuff to read. That's interesting.
Yeah. Not down my alley, but I mean, like I said, I know people like you, friends of mine who are really into that kind of stuff, are going to be super excited about it when it's that kind of stuff being in the spotlight again.
This book. This next announcement, folks. I believe we've been asking over the 100+ issues of reading Invincible.
Real quick, I want to thank Robert Kirkman for holding this announcement for this week so that we can do it on episode 400.
Yeah, this is a great episode to announce this. So Image Comics, Skybound Entertainment announced a new book set in the world of Invincible called Invincible Universe Battle Beast. And Kirkman's writing it. We got Otley on the art. I mean, I don't need to say much more than that. Cursed with the unquenchable thirst for violence that threatens those he loves, Battle Beast searches the universe for one warrior mightier than him, so that he may die before harming anyone else. But even in the universe of mighty Vulturemites like Invincible and Omni-Man, it seems that no one will be able to stop the galaxy's deadliest warrior. Unless he does the unthinkable. Yeah, I don't need any plot synopsis here. We're getting a Battle Beast book. This, I'm going to have to, go to my local comic shop or something, because I have every Invincible book physically, and you bastards got me to crawl out of the basement to search for another physical issue again. This is huge. I mean, I've been wanting this book forever. So
I remember there was hints and drabs about this being an anniversary for Battle Beast, and Otley giving some hints about it earlier in the year and everything. And it's here. I love Invincible so much. It's on my list to do a reread of it because I have the omnibuses of it that are still in the plastic, because I'm I'm just going to buy these because I know at some point I'm going to want to reread them.
Yep.
And I have a decent chunk of the original series, as well as a lot of the side series and everything. So yeah, I'll be picking this up too. Battle Beast is one of those characters I know you love to no end. I really enjoy.
I had the Battle Beast T-shirt from the Previews magazine years ago. It was so old that a hole had torn in the back of it where the tag was. It's gotten so much use.
And Mike was still wearing it, but his fiance was like, "You gotta get rid of this fucking shirt."
I remember ordering that in a Previews catalog, and the comic shop was like, "Nobody's gonna fucking want this shirt." And I'm surprised it even got made. It came 6 months later.
Dude, that's so. I used to order so many shirts out of the Previews catalog, and I just got so jaded because none of them would get made because I was the only one ordering them.
Yeah, this was the one that showed up months later. It was okay.
It's funny because my one that showed up, Mike, was I never wear it because I'm not a yellow guy, but it's all yellow, and it's just MODOK's face. And I remember I was like, another MODOK shirt. I'm just gonna see if it comes.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, this is huge. Awesome, man.
Yeah, this is gonna sell over 100,000 copies, I hope.
And I'm sure this also somehow means that in season 3, Battle Beast is gonna be a big presence.
I hope so.
At least have an episode on his own. So.
Yep. Image Comics Ghost Machine announced that in January, artist Gary Frank will return as Geiger as interior artist for issue 10. The issue will also see titular character Geiger meeting Junkyard Joe. So yeah, we know Gary's art takes a while. Glad to see he's coming back.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got a few issues in the can now. Like that was what the break was all about. I was thinking this earlier and I forgot to say it, but when watching Creature Commandos episode 3, was Junkyard Joe in the back of your head the whole time?
Oh yeah, it's definitely junk. Yeah,
like it was basically the episode, the story arc where he meets the neo-Nazi in the present. Was like if Junkyard Joe went completely wrong.
Oh yeah, if Junkyard Joe had some shit to work out. Yeah.
I'm glad to see Gary Frank back. I think the fill-in artist has been good, but it's just it's hard to be Gary Frank.
You're never going to beat Gary Frank. I'm sorry, but yeah.
And it makes sense to have him back for the big Junkyard Joe issue too. So,
Dark Horse announced a new book coming from Jeff Lemire titled 10,000 Inkstains, a memoir. It's coming July 2025 for the first time ever. His new illustrated memoir, 10,000 Inkstains. Jeff Lemire is sharing his winding path to success via a book-by-book and step-by-step journey of sketches, previously unpublished materials, essays, archives, and more. But you can also go a few years back in this podcast and find a lovely interview between Jeff Lemire and, a couple of the guys here. And I believe it was around before Sweet Tooth was coming to Netflix, so quite a few years ago.
Yeah, it was way before then. Yeah.
So go check that out. But yeah, this is interesting that he's doing that. I mean, he's got so much different work across different universes. That's pretty cool.
Dark Horse has done this a few times. They did it with Dave Gibbons that I have, but I haven't read. And there's another artist I did it with too. It's a cool idea, and I like the idea of an artist telling his story, doing a memoir or a biography of sorts, and throw in the art with it. Like, make it a part of the story because it is a part of the story.
Right.
This is cool. I will probably be picking it up to check it out because I love Jeff Lemire's work. But it's cool, and I like that Dark Horse. That's the thing. We talk a lot about Dark Horse's comics, and rightfully so because we're a comic book podcast. But you go through on their news feed, man, they're putting out all kinds of cool stuff.
Nice.
And this is like one
really
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess with that, we'll talk about what we read.
Yes.
I had some stuff from last episode, last week that I'll catch up on here, and then the only thing I really read from this week was catching up on Silent Night. So like JSA issue 2, we see how the JSA got trapped in the Tower of Fate. The Tower of Fate's in hell, and Justice Society is attacking them. Attacked them, and that's Fate transported them there. And then Hawkman gets stabbed. We're like, oh no, Hawkman's gonna die, but we all know Hawkman doesn't ever really die. So, it feels like a JSA book. I'm enjoying it.
Speaking of Jeff Lemire,
yep. Creature Commandos caught up to issue 3. So this is this book's all right. We're getting a look into each of the, like, there's a vampire, werewolf aren't getting along on the team. It doesn't really deal a lot with the Creature Commandos we see on TV. Brainiac is still blowing people up. He's like turning people into bombs, blowing them up. And Zatanna's kind of researching who this Lucky guy is, like where he came from. Brainiac has this monkey, Coco, who's like a monster. Which is interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting book. There's nothing crazy really happening yet. So,
does he have a jersey on that's double zeros for ooh ooh ah?
No, that's a good idea though.
That's my Seinfeld reference of the day.
I know. Yeah, they should have. DC Horror Presents 1 through 2. These are the horror anthologies from DC. Just Demolition Introduced Creature Commandos has a dollmaker story that was really crazy. His dollmaker's daughter's boyfriend kills himself, so she rushes the dollmaker to reanimate him, and then she can kill him. So it's really fucked up. There's a Wonder Woman story about Cersei reanimating Wonder Woman's mother and had her killing Amazons like a zombie Cersei. That's cool. Good story. Another story about this girl leading a guy on Halloween to Scarface puppet, and he kills him. And he's dressed up as a Batman with bat nipples, which they reference for his Halloween costume. And then there's a good story about Penguin being haunted by these ghosts. He hires a guy to help him, but the ghosts kind of stick around and torment him. So these are all fun stories within the DC universe that I'm liking.
Cool.
Batman Silent Night number 2 and 3. So 2 is a lot of Damian being more wowed by the Santa stuff, like the magic sand and everything is kind of funny. I think Zatanna running around with a mistletoe in her top hat is really funny as well. Just these little attention to details are fun. You have Zatanna, Robin, and Klaus go to this party with all magic users. They summon the knight to fight him, and Jason Blood gets absorbed. And the other heroes are still in the other realm. Where we learned how this knight was part of Merlin's court, how he came to power. We get the whole origin story and that stuff. Issue 3 is good. Flash gets drained in that one. Etrigan comes back. Metamorpho and Robot Man get recruited, and so does Klaus's wife shows up. She's this ancient elf-looking warrior and is where's my husband? So that's kind of where we left off, because Klaus chases after the knight, gets away, and they both disappear together. So, this story is just awesome.
Okay.
Like you said, it's Christmas time. It's great that we're getting this. Batman 155, and I put this. Okay, this was a great issue. Yeah, I mean, the fact that we had Mad Hatter, it was behind it making these glasses for Gordon. That's why he shot the mayor Nakano. Bruce puts a tracker on the so-called the brother, the so-called brother that's trying to sue Bruce Wayne. Enigma wants to buy Wayne Corpse is kind of where we're going right now. But yeah, the whole Mad Hatter thing was wild. So that was a cool reveal.
Yeah, that was a good issue. I'm really enjoying, especially just knowing the backstory now that this was kind of Zdarsky being I guess I can just do one more story.
Yeah, right.
But it's pretty amazing what he's pulling out of his ass here. I really like it.
No, I was surprised to see that. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I thought it was a great issue. Shazam 15, good issue. Mary's fighting the Monster Society of Evil. Is on the moon with Savannah's daughter now. She transported to the moon, and Billy thinks he can save Freddy after he loses a fight to him because Freddy's possessed. So that's kind of where we're at. I guess we'll see what happens. They're both in sticky situations. So did you read it or no?
No.
Okay.
I'm behind on that one.
Action Comics 1078. That was last week's. I haven't read this week's yet. Superman destroys Aether's machine that was sucking up the sun, but it releases all the prisoners from the Phantom Zone. So that's kind of where we leave off. So that's this week's issue. Will be coming up. And I just put Supergirl story, so dumb, still don't know who the person is.
Seriously?
So
I think I'm 3 issues behind because whole stupid thing where Lunar fucking sucks.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And they've been weekly issues.
But I read an issue this week that was 4 issues back, and I was holy shit, we're still just circling the drain here, man.
Yeah, it's been, I don't know, 6, 7 issues. We still haven't figured it out. So
yeah,
no reveal yet. And I'm not that positive we're going to get one coming up either. So yeah, that's it. That's all I had this week. Besides the Conan stuff, I'm reading Conan the Barbarian, folks, and absolutely love it. It's a great fantasy book, not a novel, comic book. Highly recommend it. If you're fans of Berserk, not Berserk, Barbaric. Yeah. This is it. This is Barbaric. This is where Barbaric came from. So, yeah.
So a few from last week were Absolute Superman #2.
Oh, I did read that too. Sorry. Yeah, you can talk about it.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I found it interesting. Like, we got the introduction of Lois Lane and who she is, and this was like Clark and Lois getting to know each other, and Lois really questioning her whole life after getting to know this new being that's come to Earth. And I just really enjoyed the back and forth and how they transferred Lois and then showed that Clark Superman was really the one that showed her what she should be and not what she was raised to be.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was an interesting twist on Lois Lane as a character. And then just all the cool action sequences of Superman going around saving people, helping people out. And then not to mention just some cool stuff back on Krypton as they show slowly what had happened to the world and how Clark ended up getting into Earth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really liking the book. I think it's a cool new take, and I'm like, I like the world building. And I thought it was really smart for them to get Lois Lane and to be like, oh, she's starting to be a writer.
Yeah.
Like, I want to tell the truth, damn it, you know.
Yeah.
The whole story. So that was cool.
The whole, I mean, we'll talk about Ultimates in a second too, but the whole Absolute universe has just been so good so far.
Yeah, they've been doing a great job.
And the Ultimates #7.
Nice.
I like this issue because we're dealing with what happened after last issue, where everybody thinks that Tony is dead. Mm-hmm. And spoiler alert, of course, he didn't die. He's in a baptistry tank somewhere.
Yep.
That's not what they call it, but that's what I'm going to call it because that's what it is forever.
It's the Marvel universe. Disney universe.
So we see the different Ultimates going around and doing different things and how they're starting to splinter, but at the same time, Doom and other people are trying to keep them together. And a lot of that's done because we find out at the end that Tony may not be dead. Mm-hmm. And we see him in that tank. So, but this also sets up, and I guess I'll skip right to it. This sets up kind of the events of Ultimate Universe Year 1, #1. Or 1 year in, sorry. And it shows the opposite side of the coin. So it's the Ultimates being shown as terrorists. Mm. And we get this new organization that instead of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's Hand. And Nick Fury is leading Hand. And he's given this whole soliloquy about how he's done working for the Council, he's done working for the Maker, and he has this grand plan to take out the Council before they can do anything about it. So they're on a helicarrier. We learn what Hand does, which is basically work for the Maker to take care of any threats that may oppose his regime. And as it's going along and we see him kind of strategically kill a few people, he gets the Council to come to the helicarrier and have this meeting. And his plan is, I'm going to talk to them for so long that the self-destruct sequence is going to go through and just kill everybody. And then, fun twist at the end, the self-destruct sequence doesn't happen, and the whole Council's just like laughing at him and going, oh, you've done this so many times, and you're a little confused. You're thinking like, oh, LMDs or something. Basically, this is the Nick Fury from Vietnam, like the classic style Nick Fury you saw on the cover. We find out that the Council and the Maker have cloned Nick Fury, and whenever he gets to this point where he starts to become a hero, they take him out and then reactivate a new clone of him to run Hand, because he's the most successful super spy in the world.
Yep.
So it was a neat back and forth, and it also showed a lot of like, this is what the Maker does to keep people under control and to show the Ultimates as terrorists and different things, and what the Ultimates are really fighting. And there's a backup story that sets up the whole Wolverine Winter Soldier story arc that's coming, which is basically the Russian Asia continent is run by the mutants as a sanctuary for mutants, and they end up finding Logan. They're the ones that do the Weapon X program, turn him into Wolverine, but along the way use different techniques to make him the soldier for them, the Winter Soldier. So okay. I think that was a really well done setup story for what the series is going to be.
Nice.
And I have Blade #2.
Oh, nice.
I'll say this issue is a lot of like, we have this new character we want to introduce to you, and she's going to be a part of the story. Because it really is like them going back and forth and just discussing why they should work together. So it's kind of a down issue, but I still think the setup and the action that does happen here is enough to keep me going for the book. But it definitely was like, we have this new character, we have to set her up somehow. Okay, we already talked about Batman. So let's talk about another Batman book.
Batman
Dark Patterns, #1.
Nice.
Were you planning on reading this?
Yeah, it's on my list.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is going to be your new favorite Batman book.
Nice.
It's early on Batman, as you can see on the cover. Classic symbol on the chest.
Yeah, boy.
And it really is Batman doing detective shit.
Nice.
There's this person going around Gotham killing people in a mysterious way, and he comes along and has to help the GCPD with what's going on.
Nice.
And the person ends up being is someone that I'm not familiar with, so I think it's a new creation.
Okay.
But it's a ingenious creation to fight against Batman. Because basically if Batman touches him, he kills him.
Oh.
So I loved it because we got to see Batman diagnosing situations, really doing detective shit. We don't get to see that often, even though he's always talked about as this great detective. And it feels like Dan Watters trying out to be the new Batman writer.
I love it.
So I think it's really good. I think people really enjoy it. And there's also this cool thing where there's a new coroner in Gotham, and he's just fucked up in the head. Like, he talks to Batman, he's just like, I hope you don't die anytime soon, but your bones will tell an amazing story. And you're just like, dude, that's a weird thing to say to somebody.
Yeah, but if you're a coroner, it's about right.
And then Batman takes Jim outside, just like, I don't trust this guy.
Yeah.
It might be the fact that he talked about dissecting my body, but
it's a little strange.
And then the last book I have is the EC Comics one-shot Shiver Suspense Stories #1, which is it's a Christmas-themed horror book.
Nice.
So there's a story in there about, it's like a time travel story that's basically Scrooge, but done like a really unique way with time travel.
Nice.
There's a story about a ornament that has like mystical powers. That everything turns out wrong. It's a horror book, obviously.
Yeah.
And a few other ones. I think for a one-shot Christmas horror book, it was good. It's not the better of the EC books I've read, but I did enjoy the time with it.
Nice. The Creepshow one came out this week too. I got to read.
Yeah, and I'm trying to catch up on all the EC stuff because I've been.
Yeah.
It's one of the rare times where I'm enjoying horror stuff because I think they're really well done and they're done in a smart way. So. It's been reading those in the background, but when I catch up, I'll talk more about those.
Cool.
So, Mike, that is it for episode 400. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Fortress Ricker on X/Twitter. Where can they find you and/or the show?
You can find me on X at Fortress Chris. Also at chriscomicscorner.substack.com, which currently on pause for the holidays. December's been a month, so I just paused the whole thing. I'll be back in January with it, but you can still go subscribe and check out the old stuff. And you can find the show at Fortress Pod on X, as well as fortresscomicnews.com. And if you want to support the show, best ways to do it, like, subscribe, share, comment down below on the YouTube version. 5-star reviews on podcatchers everywhere. And then patreon.com/fortresscomics. Thank you all so much for watching and or listening over these past 400 weeks. And we'll see y'all here next week.